It's a great day in Dalton. Justice is being...
Like a key before. This was acting like a key.
It's a beautiful day in Dalton, where the winds of justice are blowing fiercely, and Alan Thoron, the town's elected assessor for the past decade, has witnessed every twist and turn of the community's evolution. From assisting residents with property tax exemptions to navigating the occasional appeals process, Alan has seen it all. But today feels different. Today marks the beginning of something strange. Last month, the town board approved a proposal calling for a federal inquiry into the mayor's activities, setting the stage for an investigation that would shake Dalton to its core. After an emergency meeting, Alan arrived at work this morning to find boxes of private documents scattered across the common area. Even more perplexing, the lock on his office door had been mysteriously changed. The unsettling events continued to unfold as authorities uncovered a massive scandal involving Tiffany Henyard, the long-serving mayor of Dalton, who now stands at the center of a growing storm of corruption allegations. Recently, it was revealed that Henyard has been under investigation by the FBI for allegedly embezzling substantial sums of local funds, leaving the town in an unprecedented financial crisis. The mayor, once a fixture in Dalton's political landscape, was suddenly at the heart of a scandal so significant that federal officers executed search warrants at her residence, where they uncovered a treasure trove of damning evidence. Among the items seized were records of lavish vacations, shopping sprees funded by questionable wire transfers, and even a safe containing secret assets. Luxuries far beyond what would be expected from someone in her position. Henyard's opulent lifestyle, marked by designer purses, international travel, and a lavish security detail, starkly contrasted with the dire financial situation of the town she was supposed to serve. While the hard-working taxpayers of Dalton struggled to make ends meet, Henyard seemed to be living a life more akin to a Kardashian than a public servant. As new evidence continues to surface, it's becoming clear that her actions have caused irreparable harm to Dalton's finances. With the town teetering on the brink of bankruptcy, the federal investigation has grown more intense, as the FBI works tirelessly to uncover the full scope of Henyard's corruption. The question now on everyone's mind is, how many more lies and deceptive schemes have yet to be uncovered? Will Henyard's life of luxury be able to withstand the mounting pressure of the investigation, or will it all come crashing down around her residents of Dalton, who once adored their mayor, are calling for answers and justice, and the FBI's focus on Henyard is unwavering? Although the full extent of her criminal activities remains unknown, more revelations are expected to come to light, and with each new discovery, the case only grows more complex. The investigation is far from over, and the drama surrounding Henyard's corruption is escalating. Dalton's future depends on the truth being exposed, and the FBI is closely monitoring every move she makes. As the scope of her deceit becomes harder to ignore, the town waits with bated breath for the outcome. Will Henyard face the consequences of her actions, or will she continue to live in her luxurious bubble? Stay tuned as this explosive story unfolds. Justice may soon be served, but not without its share of surprises. The end of Henyard's political career could be just around the corner, and as the investigation deepens, one thing is certain: the truth will come to light. It will not be easy for Henyard to escape the consequences of her actions. The most infamous mayor of Dalton, Tiffany Henyard, has undergone a significant transformation in recent months. Once a frequent cause of controversy, she has apparently vanished from the public eye, leaving her sudden absence mysterious. Despite what looked to be her inevitable decline, she is being watched by many as if it were a high-stakes drama with popcorn in hand, to see what happens next. Her silence has only fueled rumors that she is attempting to evade the growing scrutiny that is catching up with her. It is generally assumed that she staged her Houdini-like disappearance from the spotlight to hide her tracks, but the real question is, how long can she stay hidden before the authorities, especially the FBI, catch her in the act of her political unraveling? The community is exhausted by the uncertainty raised by her absence. Public and law enforcement attention is focused on her, eager for the final clash to play out. For years, Henyard's unchecked leadership style alienated not only the people of Dalton, but also her political allies. By rejecting opposing viewpoints and frequently ignoring the concerns of the people who elected her, she sought to reassert her authority, but it ultimately backfired. A town assembly was convened, but the outcome was not at all what she had anticipated. It was clear that the Henyard rule was no longer in effect when not a single member of the Board of Trustees showed up. The empty seat sent a powerful message of disobedience, and Henyard knew that her political career was collapsing. Her strongest foundation, her loyal board, had become a source of active resistance. This was a moment when Henyard began to realize her power had slipped from her grasp. The change was sudden and drastic, in stark contrast to the tight control Henyard had once exercised over Dalton. What was once a promising political career is now viewed with disdain. The people of Dalton, once optimistic about her leadership, began to wonder whether Henyard could salvage anything from this situation. Tensions escalated, and her leadership and reputation disintegrated. For years, Henyard held significant political power, but that position had now become a liability. Her impatience, fueled by a desire to maintain control at any cost, led her to disregard the influence of Dalton's citizens. At one point, the Board of Trustees openly voiced its displeasure, pointing out the serious shortcomings in her leadership. What had once been a political powerhouse seemed to be approaching the end of its existence. Henyard's once strong political position is now severely weakened, and the future looks uncertain. The people of Dalton have reached a breaking point, fed up with scandal-plagued leadership. They are now handling the long-overdue accountability that Henyard had failed to provide. The flaws in her political foundation are growing wider. Even if she still believes she can control the narrative, there is no denying that her authority has become a liability. As the tragedy unfolds, it becomes clear that Henyard's credibility and leadership are irreversibly declining due to the overwhelming opposition she faces, not only from her own board but from the people who once supported her. With each passing day, the evidence against her becomes more damning, and her alternatives grow fewer. Time is running out for Henyard. The residents of Dalton are ready to overthrow her rule once and for all, and it seems that her grip on power is slipping fast. The once promising future of Dalton, shaped by Henyard's leadership, now looks increasingly bleak, and her political future appears to be rapidly coming to an end.
Sir Tiffany Henyard wanted the Board of Trustees to approve some events that she wants the township to pay for, but none of the trustees showed up for.
Tiffany Henyard, Dalton's former mayor, had always been a figure who commanded attention. Though she faced frequent controversy, she was a resilient leader who knew how to handle rejection. In one of her final acts as mayor, she addressed the town board in a defiant show of confidence, despite the fact that not a single trustee had shown up. Standing at the podium, she made no attempt to hide her unbothered demeanor as she turned the situation into her personal drama, asserting that the entire scandal surrounding her was a large propaganda campaign designed to undermine her magnificent administration. According to Henyard, the animosity against her was nothing more than a ploy to discredit her extraordinary leadership. Yet, the residents of Dalton had heard enough. The town was fed up, and in a rare moment of unity, the townspeople interrupted Henyard's speech, bluntly declaring, "We already know you're stealing from us," but even faced with these bold accusations, Henyard, ever the adept defender of her own actions, remained unfazed. "Your super mayor became too powerful too quickly," she declared, as if this somehow justified the rampant misuse of funds. She continued speaking with an air of unusual confidence, refusing to acknowledge the growing frustration in the room. It was as if nothing had changed, and the increasing public discontent had no effect on her sense of control. However, as she spoke, the evidence against her was becoming indisputable. Dalton detectives had uncovered credit card records that revealed Henyard and her administration had racked up an astounding $67,000 in travel expenses charged to the township's budget in just 5 months. When factoring in charges made by Dalton residents, the total ballooned to nearly $100,000. Despite the mounting evidence, Henyard attempted to justify the extravagant spending by claiming that her attendance at various conferences was essential to her role as mayor. She argued that she and her team had become deeply involved in these events, making the expenditures necessary. Meanwhile, Dalton's finances were being recklessly drained under her supervision. Things took a darker turn when Henyard and her administration flagrantly ignored public requests for records for months, violating state transparency laws. This lack of transparency led to legal action. The Illinois Attorney General's office, led by Attorney General Bell, urged the community to push for the release of the withheld documents. In response to the obstruction, the parent firm of Gillies filed a lawsuit in Southeast County Circuit Court. The judge, highly critical of Henyard's actions, sided with the plaintiffs, forcing Henyard to release the documents despite the mounting legal pressure and overwhelming evidence. Henyard's supporters remained fiercely determined to defend her actions, which had now escalated beyond mere financial mismanagement. What started as a simple issue of fiscal irresponsibility had grown into a deeply entrenched issue of trust and accountability. The situation deteriorated even further when the village council hired former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot to investigate Henyard's financial practices. The results of Lightfoot's investigation were shocking. Lightfoot revealed that she had never received the necessary financial statements that were supposed to be routinely delivered to the trustees. This revelation ignited an instant public uproar, forcing even those who had previously been aware of Henyard's financial misdeeds to confront the grim reality of the situation. By April 2022, Dalton's credit card spending had spiraled completely out of control, pushing the town deep into debt. In response to this, the village board adopted a resolution requesting that Henyard's conduct be investigated by the federal government. This marked a significant shift in the political climate, signaling the unraveling of Henyard's once dominant position. By May 2024, Dalton's finances had suffered a severe setback. 4 of the 6 trustees had grown disenchanted with Henyard's leadership, and during a meeting, they discovered a $3.65 million loss. The town's once healthy balance of $5.6 million had plummeted, leaving Dalton on the brink of financial disaster. This drastic loss in the town's finances served as a wake-up call for the entire community, revealing the depth of Henyard's mismanagement and the irreparable damage done to the town's economy. The once promising leadership had turned into a nightmare. The residents of Dalton, who had long supported her, now found themselves demanding justice, unable to ignore the truth any longer. Despite all of this, Henyard continued to stand strong. She faced intense scrutiny, yet her power and influence were rapidly eroding. The Board of Trustees had come to the realization that accountability was necessary if they were to ever move forward, and they demanded an explanation for all of the questionable expenses that had been racked up during her administration. It was clear that Henyard's control over the town was quickly slipping away. Her efforts to maintain her grip on power were complicated further as the FBI's investigation into her actions intensified. The FBI uncovered even more troubling evidence of Henyard's misuse of public funds for private expenses. Though these expenditures were ostensibly for legitimate purposes, they raised serious concerns, such as the loss of 6 police cars and other questionable decisions that affected public services. One of the most troubling aspects of the investigation was the use of Dalton's credit card for personal purchases from Amazon, Walgreens, Wayfair, and Target. Additionally, it was alleged that Henyard had used public funds to rent expensive items for her own personal use. As the pressure mounted, Henyard attempted to avoid the spotlight, retreating from public view. However, the FBI was closing in. Investigators learned that they had requested personnel and disciplinary records for 29 Dalton employees. They were also looking into contractor payments made to Henyard's assistant, Keith Freeman, who also worked for Thornton Township. In a similar capacity, a raid on Henyard's home unearthed a comprehensive list of her alleged corrupt activities, and the truth about her financial dishonesty began to surface. The people of Dalton, long frustrated by her actions, grew increasingly vocal in their demands for accountability. Henyard's attempts to hide behind a curtain of secrecy were no longer working, and the FBI's investigation was making things worse for her as the financial situation continued to deteriorate. It became clear that the damage Henyard had inflicted on Dalton was far-reaching. The town's finances, its trust in local government, and its future had all been compromised by her actions. The town was in turmoil, and Henyard's once unassailable hold on power was rapidly unraveling. Henyard's time as Dalton's mayor, once filled with promise, was now marred by scandal and corruption. What had once been seen as an administration capable of bringing progress had turned into a cautionary tale of unchecked power, financial mismanagement, and betrayal. The investigation into her actions was far from over, but one thing was certain. The truth was coming to light, and it would not be easy for Henyard to escape the consequences of her actions. As the town waited for the outcome of the federal inquiry, Henyard's political career appeared to be in its final stages. Once the youngest and first female mayor of Dalton, Henyard's rise to power had been meteoric. But now, in the face of mounting evidence and public outrage, her fall from grace seemed inevitable.